Tonight is the Christie Avenue Park redesign and expansion.
And with that, we will be leaving you for now.
Thanks. May we have the staff report, please?
Videos are now online on YouTube, so I'll go back and read just what I said.
Yeah. No, that's
Excuse me, Maru? Are we going to get the entire sort of back and forth on all of those proposed conditions, or because we haven't had a chance to read the stuff?
I'll walk you through.
Thank you.
each.
Okay.
Good evening, Commission. This is the Christie Avenue Park FTP in front of you for consideration for approval. This is sort of the evolution of the park design. As you can see, they've been working since almost a year now. They've included community meetings. It's been through Parks and Rec Committee meeting twice, and it has also gone through City Council Committee meeting and as well as Planning Commission. The last committee or the entity to review the project was the Planning Commission in October. At that October Planning Commission study session, the Commission was generally satisfied and did not have additional comments regarding the proposal. So just to take you through, this is the approved marketplace plan, and you can see where the Christie Avenue Park was envisaged. And this is the overview of the existing Christie Park, and the red lines show the extension of the proposed new plan. This was the park design that was shown at the City Council study session, and one of their main comments was regarding the main path. They wanted that straightened. And you saw this at the October Commission, at the October study session. And the proposal today has not changed much to that extent. So we have a dog park, we've got a children's park, and the rest of the area is mainly for a lawn area for respite and general hangout. I'm not going to go through each elements of the park design. I'm going to let that let the applicant walk you through that, just to remind you again as to what you've seen in October. A couple of things I would like to point out and that I would focus on is the tree removal plan. So in addition to what is in front of you, which is an FTP, you are also here to consider removal of a number of street trees. So the initial tree removal plan included removal of almost all the trees except one, which is in green. After consultation with the city arborist and a lot of back and forth, what has been agreed upon is preservation of the additional 3, 4, 5 trees. And this was shown to you at the October study session as well, and this has not changed. So you are looking at removal of 51 trees, of which 40 are on public property, which is the existing Christie Park, and these 40 are the ones that need a tree removal permit. In addition to the tree removal, our tree ordinance requires that there's a requirement of plant the replacement trees to be of equal or cumulative diameter and the payment of replacement value fee. The project proposes to plant 43 new trees, and although the final size of the trees to be planted will be decided by the planning director in consultation with the city arborist. And this was discussed at the October Planning Commission study session, where the city arborist mentioned that we do not know what the existing soil conditions are, and therefore it is very difficult to recommend the size of the trees at this point. And therefore we have a condition of approval that before they actually plant, we would have the information on the soil conditions, and the city arborist would provide a recommendation to the planning director regarding the final size. The staff is recommending that the commission waive the requirement of the replacement trees size and the payment of replacement value fee for couple of reasons. One is that we don't quite know what the final size is, and the reasons for that is that we don't have the adequate information for the city arborist to make a determination, and also the applicant is, undertaking the cost of design and construction of an expanded park, and this the park design has been achieved through a lot of public community input as well as various committees' input, and I think a good faith effort has been made by the applicant to preserve as many trees as possible. And it is for this reason that we are recommending that the fee be waived. There was also an idea of this is what was the city council wanted to see, that the park design allow in the future expansion onto the north of onto the south of the park. This is the city-owned parcel, and we didn't, and that was the direction that was given by the city council, and so the applicant has given a rough schematic to show that the current proposal will allow any future expansion. So in terms of, in order to approve this plan, you have to ensure that it conforms to the general plan and is consistent with the approved PUD/PDP. So the general plan designation of the existing park is park and open space, and of the expansion area is MUR. The zoning for the existing park is park and open space, and for the expanded area is planned unit development. The proposed park does conform with the approved PUD in terms of location, size, and inclusion of a pedestrian access through the park connecting Christie Avenue to the public market. And the approved PUD/PDP does include a 6,000 square feet of retail pad within the park, but that pad is omitted. But we believe that the park is in compliance as there are adequate retail uses near the park. All right, let's see if we can. So the park is also in conformance with the city's parks and recreation plan, and these are the various elements that the plan outlines for this site, and staff believes that the proposed design is in compliance. Now, I would like to direct your attention to a couple of conditions of approval. One is regarding the plant palette, which I had mentioned, that the final plant palette, including the size of the plants, shall be approved by the planning director on the advice of the city arborist. And if there are any questions regarding the proposed plant palette, the city arborist is here if you have any questions for him. Oops, sorry. The other condition of approval I would like to highlight is regarding the lighting plan. So our condition mentions that all the lights along Christie Avenue as well as public right-of-way conform to the city lights, which are Lumek lights, and all the lights within the park conform to the lights that we have on our greenway, and that's what the condition says. In addition, the condition also calls for lights along the path here, and this is directly in response to the concern that was presented by the police department regarding the lighting. So this is a photometric study. So this, this little things that kind of show you where the light will, what the light will be once these poles are installed, and you can see that this entire area will be in darkness, and the police did have a concern regarding that. The police department also had a concern regarding having perhaps more lighting along this path, but we kind of discussed it, and he was satisfied that lights along Christie Avenue would be adequate to light this portion of the park.
But I would just like to chime in here and say the condition also requires that this photometric study be redone to cover the entire park, and if any portion of the park turns out to be underlit, that additional lighting would be provided to my satisfaction.
I had a quick, I was wondering, there seemed to be, say, over on the left side here, just a couple of measurements, right? And then almost no measurements, so I'm glad to hear that, yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what this condition is. So before I move forward, now I would like to draw your attention to a couple of documents. One is this letter received today in the afternoon from City Center Realty. If you can please pull that out and go to page 3. And then you also have a memo from staff, which is this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the conditions that the City Center Realty have recommended. And how I would do is, so our response has been, it's a mixed response. We don't agree with some of their options or recommendations. We agree with some of them. With couple, we have made some modifications to the language that they propose. So we do agree, but we've done a little bit further wordsmithing. And so that's what I'm going to walk you through. So where it says, under conditions on page 3 of the City Center Realty, and I would suggest that I'm sure the applicant is also following through. All right, so the first one is their suggestion that all the conditions bind to the owner and not to the applicant. We do not agree with this recommendation. Number 2 is regarding compliance with approvals where they want to retain the existing private development monument sign on the site. Our position is that although the existing monument sign is currently on private property, that will become a public property, and we do not wish to see advertising essentially a private development, and it would be in effect an off-site advertisement. So that is the reason why we do not agree with their number 2. Number 3 bullet point, we do agree, and so we, in the memo that staff has prepared, it shows that this condition will be removed. Regarding bullet number 4 of their letter, they wanted clarification of who the Bay City's Joint Powers Insurance Authority is. This entity is the insurer of the city, so therefore their inclusion in the indemnification is appropriate. And therefore, we do not agree with their bullet number 4. Bullet number 5 on page 4. This again is regarding indemnification, and we do not agree with their request. Regarding bullet number 6, we generally agree with the intent of their recommended changes. We have offered a little difference in the wordsmithing of it, and that's in the memo that you have in front of you. And so if the applicant has any objections to that, then I'm from them. Bullet number 7 on page 4 of their letter, we accept that, and we are okay with that, and that is included in the memo. Bullet number 8 and bullet number 9, which is at the bottom of page 4 and top of page 5. These are 2 conditions regarding street improvements. They have made some modifications. We do not agree with these modifications, and the Public Works Director is present here, and he can explain if you have any questions regarding those conditions. So bullet number 10, this is a typo that they have pointed out, and we have no objections to that, and that's been included in the memo. Bullet number 11, regarding their request for clarification that the tree protection plan be required for trees that are going to be preserved. We don't have an issue with that, and we accept that. Bullet number 12, this, we do have a, we do, this one, let's see what this, yes, we do sort of agree with it. I believe, just let me just check. No.
We modified it.
No, we didn't. We modified it.
No, we do not agree with it. sorry, bullet number 12, we do not agree, and so there's no changes to that. Regarding 13 and 14, we have combined that into one condition with modifications, and that is in the memo.
Maru?
Yes.
Can I just, so,
Sure, sure.
so 13 we did agree with, so we modified condition 4A3, and we do not agree to amend condition 4A4 because the prior provision where we've agreed to add language to condition 4A3, and it reads, the terms and conditions of the public improvement agreement as approved by the City Council may modify the provisions of condition of approval numbers 4A4, 4B1, and 4C1. And so their item number 14 is asking to, in fact, modify condition 4A4, and we've already agreed by revising this one condition that the project improvement agreement that the council will approve can in fact modify that condition further. So I'm not interested in getting into a debate with them at this point in time. We can do that when we negotiate the project improvement agreement and bring it to the council.
Okay, moving on, page 6 of their letter, bullet number 15. This is a request to include a condition regarding the city transfer of a corner of the parcel to the owner in fee. We feel that this would be handled when the FTP for parcel C comes before approval. So we do not agree at this time. Regarding number 16, damage to public facilities, we do not agree, and the reason is that during construction, it is possible that the construction-related activities may have an impact or damage areas of the city which are not just in project construction. So, there may be some damages on shell mound while they're working on the park. So we do not agree. Bullet number 17, we are okay with that. We do agree with the suggested change, except that the placement of the trees, they want that to be approved by the planning director. We have changed that to the public works director because we believe that this is more within his preview. Bullet number 18, this is regarding the bay-friendly certification. We do not have an objection to that, so we agree on that. Page 7 of the letter, bullet number 19. So this is the lighting condition. We do not agree with the changes for the reasons explained earlier. Bullet number 20, we do not agree because we do know that the East Bay Mud will be building a water main, so there's nothing to be determined if this is going to happen or not. We know this for a fact that it is going to happen. Bullet number 21, we do not. We do not agree to that.
Well, we actually believe we should.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, pardon me. Thank you.
That's all right.
We agree, and we recommend that this condition be eliminated. So I'm sure you got that right. So, essentially, I think the best would be to kind of hear from the applicant regarding, what our response to their letter is, and then take it from there rather than going through the various questions. If they have no issues, then, we are done with this. So that kind of concludes my presentation. Oh, one more thing. Attached to the memo presented by staff is also a revised resolution, and the only change to that is on page 3 of the resolution, and this is a request from the applicant, which kind of documents that the waiver of the plant replacement trees of equal diameter and the payment of the value fee. So that's something that was requested by the applicant, and we have introduced that. So that concludes my presentation. So subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report that you received, as well as subject to the conditions, revised conditions in the memo that was given to you this evening. So with that, if you have any questions from me, I would be happy to answer. Otherwise, the applicant will walk you through the design of the park one more time.
Any questions from Maru? Oh, do you have a question?
Thank you. The applicant will receive credit for construction, dedication and construction of the park against what would otherwise be impact fees, correct?
Correct.
Not necessarily.
It's to be determined.
That has to be approved by the city council.
Right.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify in my head the relationship between the credit they get against what their obligations are in terms of building the park and in terms of replacing the trees, and see what, just to sort it out a little in my head. I understand that they will be planting trees and that the size of the trees is not determined, but there are also, we're going to lose a bunch of trees, so I'm wondering whether that should be factored into the equation.
I mean, keep in mind that the number of trees that they are removing is 40, and they are replanting more trees. So and the question of the diameter of the trees is, it's not really their fault at this point. And I think it would behoove us to plant trees which have a good chance of doing well, rather than...
I agree.
So just to elaborate a little bit more on the development impact fee issue, I think that issue and the urban forestry ordinance issue about tree payments are really separate issues, and they shouldn't be confused, because that would be confusing.
It's confusing.
But the park itself will not be subject to development impact fees because it doesn't create any building square footage. And that's what impact fees are based on. So if they're going to get a credit for the development impact fees for building the park, the park fee, that would be against the other buildings that they're proposing, and that's something we would have to negotiate with them. In any event, the most credit they could get would be however much the impact fee would have been for whatever those other buildings are, which may not equal the cost to actually build the park.
Okay.
They're not going to get necessarily paid back for the entire cost of the park. They will get possibly some or all of a credit for some or all of the other FTP buildings.
Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And are the street trees on the opposite side of the park on Market Drive and on 63rd in consideration as part of the trees that are being planted?
The trees along 63rd
on the opposite side of the park that are shown on the design?
On the east side.
So both on Market Drive and on 63rd Street, there are street trees shown?
Correct.
Opposite side of the park. Is that part of
Opposite
this
side of the
project?
street.
Yes, but not the trees along the building under construction. That's already been planted. Trees along 64th and Christie residential building that is under construction, that planting has already occurred.
Well, the plan shows little dashed lines around those trees, and the legend says future development. So their proposal, I believe, the ones on the east side of Market Drive,
Yes.
around that block, they wouldn't be put in now,
That's
because
right.
when they
Yeah.
build the grocery store and the residential over there, those trees are going to be in the way.
Right.
So
So it's
they-
actually an even swap of trees. They're installing 40 trees, they're removing 40 trees, correct?
Well, I mean, yes, in terms of street trees.
No, in terms of inside the
Oh,
park.
inside the park,
Total
yes,
trees, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Maru, the only, when I was looking through this packet of plans, this plan set, the only drawing that I could find that was actually a site plan is called preliminary design concept. But just to be clear, this is the final plan, right? I mean, this is no longer preliminary.
That is correct. So sheet
That should be changed.
12?
G12
G12, yeah.
is the plan, and then subsequent sheets from G13 to, it kind of then divides up the park in different, so this is the plan.
Thank you.
Is the...
So would you like to hear from the applicant at this point?
I don't know if this is a question for the applicant or for staff, but is the dog park area the only area that will be open to dogs?
I believe dogs are allowed in all city parks.
Not
They
at
just-
Doyle Hollis Park.
No?
No.
Oh, I stand corrected. But I guess we don't have a rule about this park. Are they allowed in Christie Park? They're not. Oh.
But they're not.
Not
guess-
allowed in a lot of parks, but
I guess
they
not.
exist anyway.
I mean, I just see the gate. It seems like it's fenced off. It's got like a double barrier exit. Seems like the intention is that that's where the dogs are and that they're not to go anywhere else, or at least off leash. And I just wanted clarification.
I think the dog park is where they can be unleashed. I think that's the idea of why there's the fence. But I'm not, in terms of the rest of the park, there is no reason one way or the other. In any case, usually dogs need to be leashed in open areas.
Yeah, that generally is the requirement under the city's code, and I do know that there is a sort of a work item that we do have in conjunction, I believe, with the Parks and Recs Committee, is to look at sort of issues regarding, where dogs can and cannot be, which parks they're going to be allowed into, and things of that nature. So it's somewhat of a moving target in terms of the policy direction that eventually the council will make on that issue.
Thanks, Maru. All right, so we'll go ahead and invite the applicant up.
Good evening, commissioners. It's good to see you again. As you know, we've been working for over 18 months with the community, with the staff, to come up with a plan that we feel and the community feels will be responsive to their needs and desires. As Maru pointed out, we held 2 community meetings. We met with the Parks and Rec Committee twice, the BPAC Committee twice. We're in front of you folks twice, numerous meetings with the staff. We think it's all been a great process. It's allowed us to, and I think you've seen that the plan has evolved and it's become a good plan that is responsive to the community. We hope that you'll feel the same way tonight as you review the plans. I'd like to ask our architects, Aaron Ashley and Ann Howerton, to come up and walk you through the plan if you'd like. And then I'd like to comment afterwards on Maru's comments relative to the conditions.
Ann and I were just talking and thinking that we see you so frequently, and you maybe know this park so well that we're happy to kind of go as far as you want, or just answer questions. But what we thought we'd do is just kind of reel back to October, play through what we've done since, and then take it from there, depending on how you feel. So I think we all know where the park is. Just kind of reeling back to the original PDP, where the park had an anticipated expansion to the north. We talked a lot about phasing when we were together last month and in December, and I just wanted to kind of play it out for you again so you could see the park in context. The focus of the project is still to get the Shellmount Street realignment and the grocery store in place first, and that on the heels of that, go into construction on the park so that it would be complete before delivery of residential buildings. And that was sort of the general intent of the PDP. And so we didn't want to let the effort linger, so we thought we'd go through with the FDP approval, even though the idea is to kind of complete it on the heels of the grocery store. Even beyond the May 29th community meeting at Hyatt, we'd worked with staff in March of last year, and I was just thinking, my son turned 1 this week, and I had a community meeting for this project the night before he was born, so it's sort of intimately measured in my life. But so anyways, it's been a kind of a frequent moving target, and I think it's, more so than any aspect of what we've been working on, this has been shaped by the community. And going back to those first diagrams, which were really the community's diagrams, and we were just the hand that put it on paper. It's been a really enjoyable process. I'll turn it over to Ann and kind of just step through a few of the pieces, and then, we'll leave it up to you.
We're pretty sure you remember a whole lot of this, and there are probably some issues you want to spend more time on, so we won't belabor it, but we thought we'll flash forward. We'll make sure we've covered everything again. So here we are. This is the park with the expansion piece identified and the combined acreage and the adjacent uses. Oh, whoops, wrong way. Technologically challenged. Here's the interesting scale comparison with Doyle Hollis Park, which you know intimately. And what's so interesting about it is it's really an equivalent size park at Christie with slightly different dimensions. It's almost like somebody squeezed the same acreage into a slightly different shape. And I keep thinking it in terms of 6 tennis courts. It's really a fairly intimate park setting, although very important to the design of the adjacent neighborhood and what's about to happen there. Okay, this way? No, sorry, here we go. These are the views that you're very familiar with. That in the upper left, moving right, there's that all-important walkway towards the park stage is at the upper right. That's being slated for removal under this proposed plan. There's the big berm in the lower right, again slated for removal. Everybody in the community meetings and so on said, it really is not benefiting the ability to be visually and accessibly using this park. And in fact, the wind swirls. So that's the story. And then, of course, looking to the north, the lower right view is the building that's under construction. Here's the all-important shadow study, or let's call it the sun study. This is how it is now, analyzing the swing of sun to shade over a day, just sort of average to give you a sense of where we're going to have morning sun, where we have sun all day right now, and where we have afternoon sun only under the shadow of the office tower that's to the east of the public market. Here's what happens if, with development, the city land parcel due south, contemplated as perhaps 5 stories, would have its effect on sun. And the important thing to note is that sun all day pocket that's central to the park is something we've designed around in our advancing of the design. Here's where we were in July when we first met with you. We'd already met with the committee, with the community input, and we'd met with staff. We had reviewed your master plan for parks generally in Emeryville and what was slated for and contemplated for this park, and we've summarized it on this drawing again for you. It's interesting that as we've moved forward over this year of successive refinements and meetings and inputs, that we're still holding on to and considering a lot of important issues that were identified early on. And so I think without getting into it too much, we can come back to this if you'd like. Let's flash forward. When we met with you in October, this is what the plan had looked like. Finally, we were drawing something. We had had a lot of input, and we decided to put pencil to paper and assign the program elements, give some life to this and some spatial considerations. So here you see the program that had been identified for us, and we made an attempt to put it on the plan. And even here, you can already see the playground is allocated its space. There is a park plaza that's directly on axis with what is now called our 62nd Street Plaza Street, and the dog park has attained definition. There's circulation, and there's certain elements of the program that are hearkening back to the plan and the inputs that we've received. Here are the updates. Just to flash forward, the last time we met with you, your input to us is summarized here, and I think the only thing I forgot, and I'll go back for a minute, is the all-important straightening pathway and the removal of a tree that you see on this drawing here. It's no longer present. There's the hand. That's gone. We heard you. The whole idea is to extend the Plaza Street at 62nd in and through the park, visually, so forth. Let's see, which one now? Forward? This one?
Down.
Okay, down. So let's just go through this quickly. Eliminated the movie screen. No one was really saying a lot of infrastructure was needed to dedicate to this idea. However, we do have GFI outlets in 3 key locations proximate to the large open lawn areas. So there's some flexible event use electrical being provided. We reduced the number of berms. That was another specific input from this group, and it was to increase the open lawn area. And so we have retained it, and we'll go back to the plan, and you can see how it's working now. The main pathway tree was selected to be a larger canopy tree, not at the time of the commission meeting, but in subsequent feedback and in working with the city arborist and with our own consulting arborist. In addition, again, a recommendation from one of the commissioners, addition of the New Zealand Christmas tree species was finally selected to play a major role in the park. In terms of park and street lighting, we were asked to study and think about an idea to illuminate the park, and we have done so in concert with a lighting consultant. And again, more on this I'm sure to come, but we have added street lights along 63rd Street and along Market Drive, as well as addressing the light levels along the main pathway. In fact, we've made several iterations and adjustments until we were very comfortable that we're providing an excellent level of light along that all-important element of circulation. Finally, we are recommending and had recommended an alternate pedestrian pole light for consideration on the main path with a full cutoff. And in fact, this is one of your 2 standards. The City Plaza standard is simply advocating a shorter pole in scale with that park pathway versus the Greenway standard. Fully realizing you have 2 standards in play, but I understand in talking with LUMAC that this has precedent in some of your other plaza spaces. And we simply are thinking holistically about the environment of apartment dwellers and families that surround virtually 4 sides of this park, and what will it be like if we fully illuminate the park as a consequence of all pathways and use a fixture that in fact emits light as opposed to being a dark, fully shielded fixture. A consideration, and we're just simply putting it forward as professionals. Finally, landscape design has been supplemented with preliminary civil engineering. We now know more about the stormwater BMPs on Market Drive and have facilitated that with biofiltration plantings. Here's the plan. One of the commissioners was saying, which plan? This is the plan. It's the final design before you now. And you can see that the elements have, it may not be easy to see, but we've responded to the previous slide. We have tweaked it. You can see the straightness of the main path, the absence of that tree that we talked about at the plaza entry from 62nd. All the other features are really the same. We have picked up and tweaked the lighting, studied it, tweaked the plantings a little bit. Again, the tree selection is now in its iteration subject to further soils testing and a determination, which will again loop back to the city's arborist. This again, just to reflect on for a minute, very much unchanged, just the plaza changes. And I want to clarify one thing that gets misunderstood several times. At A, there are 2 elevated crosswalks to facilitate strong circulation from both sides of 62nd into the park.
So are those just like speed tables?
Yeah.
So the whole intersection is
very
raised?
broad and with an urban striping pattern as
Right,
it worked
so
into the
that-
hardscape.
The whole of 62nd
It's all
Street
elevated.
would be flush. And so this little gray band is really the ADA rumble pavement across a kind of a flush plaza that cars could move through. So this striping is just to say that's where you walk, even though it's all flush, and that it would slope down that 6 inches here
And on the other side.
and here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it looks like a shadow on the lower side. It makes it look like it's about 8 feet up.
Oh, but very subtle. Don't worry.
I think this is a biofiltration planter
Okay.
separate
I
from
get it.
Yes.
You-
Yes. In fact, that's just a graphic to say, hey, where are we filtering some water?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, which way? This way?
Down, yeah.
Okay, got it back and forth. Christie Avenue interest, just to reflect on it, I don't think this has changed since we've last shown you. It's programmatically the same. Of course, some discussion on lighting. This is the little social idea with the precedent sculpture at the corner of 63rd and Christie. Again, no movement on this particular item. Here's the playground. I think you're all familiar with it at this point. I can't think of anything other than the plaza and the definition on the access to the plaza. Here we are again, close-ups. I'd like you to look at the mounds. We have pushed back, doing a little less of that. You can see the areas with the designation C on them, and that's because area D needed to be larger to have flexible use. Okay. Here we are on the other side, again dropped the berms a little bit. Their presence on this side of the park is really to help that solitude idea, that respite idea of using that curved wall and having a little bit of claim some space. You're a little out of the fray of the main area where a large activity could be taking place. It'll face some good pockets of sun, have a nice overview, and yet it's slightly defined.
Is it actually a retaining wall, or is it just a seat wall?
Slightly retaining, probably not fully retaining, because any undulations on the edges, I barely call them berms. They're just gentle movement in the landscape to allow to sit a little higher. It's going to help our trees with drainage, but it's really walkable into this park. And so it'll rise and then it'll settle a little bit and then be defined by a seat wall. Here's the dog park and the upper end of the park. Again, this program is unchanged.
I just want to say, so one question the commissioner raised, Commissioner Gunkel, about off-leash. You know, this is a photo that we photoshopped from New York where dogs are let off-leash before 9 a.m. and it's kind of the social thing that you do in all the New York parks. We're not suggesting that it's up to someone else to legislate that, but it could certainly be an idea for here.
And I think on that topic, before we move, and again, we're not advocating anything, we're neutral. I think it's Emeryville's business to decide what they want to do, but I'll remind you that your own plan of several years ago, 2011, said this was scheduled hours, off-leash, dog-friendly. But we didn't have any inputs on that, and the inputs were all circled on, please provide a dog park. So therefore, we are providing a dog park, and we are neutral on the issue of how dogs use this park. We certainly provided the baggie dispensers at the entry points and are thinking about it, of course. Here's the hardscape just summarized with color tone so that you understand it well. We are a little bit pervious. We're as pervious as we can be. The dog park itself is pervious, and edging to the pink area is pervious. And this is in order to try and capture a little water within the park itself. There's a quick look at what these surfaces might be like. Not taken literally, though. Oops. There's the tree diagram again. I think, and we can spend more time on this, but I just want to say that this has been a thoughtful process. It's had a lot of input, a lot of careful consideration, and I thought I would just remind you of a few of the constraints on this park. One of them is soils. We don't know everything we need to know in order to make final determinations about trees, but we do know it's challenging right across the street, and early indications on Shell Mound are, okay, this is challenging. High water table, capping, some removal issues. Removal of the berm alone, the hardscape on the west side of Christie at the southwest half, in order to just expand the usable area of the park where it's all hardscape, and those trees are not doing well anyway from 20 to 29. It's a combination of issues, and we are doing our best to save the ones that the city arborist and our consulting arborist, Nelda Matheny of Hort Science, felt were the best, strongest candidates. And we are trying to thoughtfully reapply a replacement value of trees to this park, and we're being guided in the process as to size and species, working with the city's arborist. Okay? Here's the palette as it lays out, color-coded for you. Those large chartreuse dots are the live oaks, thought to create some character over time, developing eventually into long-lived older species. The predominant tree is a bright green, and it's the Brisbane box, which is a bulletproof solution, coupled with the use of the New Zealand Christmas tree, which is the pink dot, and give us some flowering contrast and foliage contrast, but very durable, very suited to the conditions we think we face. And then finally, a little bit of water gum. It's being used to introduce a smaller tree where screening seems to be needed between the dog park and the little entry on the northwest, and also between the cars and the playground.
So this picture is a little different than the one in our packet. Is that, which one's?
Okay, I would advise you to look at the, Are you saying you're looking at the same diagram, but it looks a little different?
Yeah, there's different species on the one on the screen than there are on our packet. Page G.
We'll look at this now.
23?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a typo on there.
Do you want to put that on the open?
Yeah. It's
That'd be great.
seemingly. I think this is a typo in recopying one of the older files.
Okay. So the what in our packet is
The
correct.
one in your packet is correct.
The one in your packet is correct. Is that all right? Acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wasn't
That's the way
sure
we
which.
like it.
Yeah, well, I'm confused too, as you can see. Okay, go this way.
The one we have.
Oops.
Here we go.
Can we, okay, this one?
Yeah, no, the down one.
It's down is next. I don't
down.
like that. Okay, here's our tree palette. Existing trees, the one magnolia, the one large healthy one, is being preserved in the middle of the pathway. We'll take steps to make sure it's happy. The London Plains, that's one of the actual trees. That's Christie Avenue in the upper left view, and that's one of the good ones. And then there's the palette, so you can see what the tree species look like. This is a ground cover tonal diagram showing you what's where. Obviously a large central lawn, and then those areas E are walkable but native grasses that can be mown or left unmown. And the idea is to keep a very soft character to those slightly undulating shapes that people will picnic on, play on. They can walk in anywhere basically, but the idea is to get as much usable area as we can in this park. The other little elements are providing some diversity of habitat, some butterfly coastal plantings that are low, tough, like the wind. And in fact, I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to be a unique place.
Who's taking care of the maintenance of this park?
Well, it's a city park.
Okay, so in terms
the
of
end.
how you want things mown and unmown, I mean, is
Well,
that a maintenance plan that you'll pass off to the city?
Yes. I will make that all very clear in the design and very clear in the maintenance manual. Okay. So I don't think we have to look at pretty pictures too much. It's fun, but it's not really the business of the day, so I'm going to move forward. Here's site amenities. I think it's important to point these out. So, for instance, at E, you can see where those 3 electrical points are, and we'll point them out for you. So that's, something new and specific. Can you think of anything else? Lighting. Let's point out the lighting. So this lighting pattern is the yellow symbol with the cross on it. That makes a nice band of illumination. We'll show you the photometric plan in a minute.
And continues up into the plaza.
Right. I think that's probably the key element there. I mean, obviously, I can show you those doggy dispensers. You want to do that? No.
Well, I think you've got it.
I think we've got it. Okay. We are using, as requested, all city standards, and there they are. The upper row are the city standards for your review, and the issue, of course, is the lighting standard in the upper left. And below are the things that are in the plan that it provided some imagery to answer your questions about materials or ideas. Okay, here's the photometric plan. A little hard to interpret. I think and it's true, it is concentrated on measuring where the lights are, not where the lights aren't. But philosophically, our opening position was make very good walkable edges around the park, make sure that Market Street, 63rd, pick up lighting, and the lighting's adequate along Christie. And then because this is a nighttime route, make sure that there's a very good, comfortable light level that's expanding out to either side beyond the path itself, creating a very safe and secure and friendly place to traverse the park. And that was our position, and I understand that there's a different point of view here, but I think it's worthy of reflection. On a 1.2 acre park, are we going to fill it with light, like lighted tennis courts, or in fact, is it more like Doyle? And we just looked at it online, and I'll just remind you, they used far fewer lights in the other areas where there are some paths. There's 1 or 2 lights. For instance, if we took the dog park path, there were about 2 lights, the equivalent at Doyle. So there's something.
The only other thing, I know we're going to talk about conditions of approval. I wanted to kind of recharacterize the condition of approval on lighting slightly differently. As we understand it, there's sort of 3 components to that condition. Component 1 is maintaining satisfactory city standard lighting around the edge, street lighting. So the green dots are the sort of city standard LUMAC that you see if you walk outside of this building. Today, there's a city standard light in blue with 2 arms on it, you know well. And then there's 3 existing Cobra heads, and they perform adequately today. We understand that the city would like to see the entire frontage of the park brought up to current city standard. So I think we understand that aspect of the condition. The second aspect of the condition was the fixture itself. And just to skip ahead, so the standard Greenway light is the one on the right here, the acorn, which is sort of synonymous as the glowing acorn that you see in old city parks. And given the number of apartments and condominiums and homeowners and families living above this thing, we felt like the density really of people looking down on something like this would be better. And so this is the pedestrian scaled arm of the city standard that shows up in certain plazas, like in front of this building. So either way is fine. Either way provides adequate lighting on the sidewalk. It's just it's a design aspect as it relates to its neighbors. The third piece, so we love your feedback, and clearly staff has an opinion. The third piece is, sorry, where's my lighting plan? Whether or not to add additional lighting, and as Ann characterized it, sort of bring the park up to tennis court levels. We're of a mindset that perimeter lighting is what you do with parks, and you provide the direct way through, and it's very clear to see silhouettes because of perimeter lighting. But again, I think we'd be open to a discussion on the conditions in 3 ways. It's not to us. It's not just a blanket condition.
Great.
If I could just briefly respond, the Greenway lights that we currently have do have some kind of directional feature to them, so they're not just shining all over the place, and they are up and down Doyle Street, and we've never heard any complaints from any neighbors that they were too bright. So just as a point of context.
Okay.
Also, I would just like to say, checking our notes, I believe we heard, certainly staff said this at a DCC meeting, and I believe that the Planning Commission also said it at least one, or maybe the City Council, or maybe both, expressed a desire for the Greenway lights within the park. We didn't just make it up.
Playground equipment, I don't know if there are any specific questions. Happy to address them. We are proposing these bouncy mats in the center area. There's a climbing structure. It can accommodate up to 7 kids at a single time. It's targeted at kids who are 5 to 7 years of age. Or no, it's a little, yeah, that's right, 5 to 7. This is any age. These are interesting. This is addressing the idea of art. Art is also useful as play. These are designed for play. They're bendy wands, and you can kind of run through them and bend them, and they spring back in very slowly into shape. It's kind of an interesting, novel idea that's near the bouncy mats on the rubber surfacing. Here's the whale. I think we've all looked at the whale. The whale is based on a precedent, working with a team of wonderful designers in Sweden, and we'd like to do it here. There's the mat surfacing information. Here's our just jumping bay-friendly scorecard. We're at 101 points as we intend to proceed. So we pass, and we pass on irrigation WELO calculations. And that closes our remarks, but opens up the discussion.
I do want to comment on some of the conditions, but perhaps it's best if you have questions of our architects now, to go through the questions, and then I can come up and talk about the conditions, if you'd like to proceed that way.
Sure. Does anyone have questions for the design team?
So I guess I'm just slightly confused. The main pathway park lighting is now the Acorn-style greenway light. Is that correct?
That's the condition of approval is that we switch back to that.
So it was actually going to be the
One that looks like a street
cut
light.
off.
The small version.
Small, okay.
Right, these things usually have the tall, yeah, and the short, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question about the playground equipment. So I noted in the staff report that at one of our previous study sessions, the commission had given a comment about the mixing sort of traditional and non-traditional playground equipment. And that, that's something that sort of resonates with me. I really love the whale a lot. And, I think the climbing structure might also work well, but I'm skeptical about some of the other equipment, and so I wanted to ask sort of about your rationale.
Yeah. So our research was pretty widespread. We've all got little kids we know and parks we know, and we became instant observers, and we did a lot of research. We were asked early on in the investigation to open our minds to things that could combine more flexible play, more interactive. In other words, there's a lot of research that kids need to get away from their technology and back into socializing in places where it's not scripted. And in fact, the spatial opportunities for this small park were to be creative about it and to develop a situation where there are places that could be shared. So, for instance, the bouncy mat is, and I did my own research of asking people I knew with kids what they like to do and what was popular. At some point you have to make a selection that works with the spatial constraints of playgrounds, because there are a lot of design issues that have to be dealt with. And it seemed to us that the idea of creating a zone between the plaza and the whale that had some things that were rather intriguing, but low maintenance, and could involve kids of any age to play with it and jump on the mat or bend the reeds or run through the reeds and develop some sort of gaming, was a fun idea, as opposed to a swing set or a slide. The whale is kind of a timeless idea. If you've been up to Lawrence Lab, you've seen the kids climbing the whale up there. It's a different whale, of course, but the idea of getting into and out of something in a group situation is something that's, I would say it's classic. It's a different it's interpreted, of course, here. And then the climbing structure, this is just the new wave of climbing structures. Climbing structures are traditional, but they've moved to things where they're using netting so that they've avoided some of the safety issues, but they've provided an environment where there's a lot of exploration and climbability, and you're using your limbs. And there are aspects of it that can appeal to kids who have accessibility issues, and it's just the nature of where things have moved. So we've tried to provide things that are traditional, and not to mention we've got these grass mounds people can roll around on and kick a ball and do all kinds of traditional things. So I think it's a nice combination, and I'll let it go at that. We have reviewed this any number of times with all our groups as we've moved forward.
I have a question about the whale. Is there just one entrance and exit, like from one end of it?
No, it's
No, that's the fun part. It's not, if we can find
You
it.
get to go out the end.
it's not like Pinocchio where you just go in the front.
It's not a controlled access. You know, one kid can close it off. In fact, for slightly older, more agile kids, there's kind of a hatch idea that they climb up a ladder that you could only do if you had
You can go
the
through the
skill
top.
sets. And you can go through the top.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
You get to
this
blow that.
this little bit right here is actually the walkway on top. You can kind of walk the ridge of the back.
But that would only be accessible if you, it's designed for sort of the age groups that are able to apply the skill sets safely. We'll have to get into detail on this, of course. And it has a
And-
lockable after-hours thing. I
That's
think
what I
if
was
you're
just gonna
afraid
ask.
to say that, I'm
Yeah.
already thinking about that. It would be easy to drop a mesh net and, you know. And we've done some investigation to say this is a feature that can be incorporated, and the answer was absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank the staff for considering our comments to the conditions earlier today in such a timely fashion. Having said that, though, I do have a few comments that I'd like to share with the commission that'll help you in your dialogue and discussion of these conditions. The first one was we had requested that the owner be the one obligated to meet the conditions of approval and provide all the indemnifications. And we think that makes much more sense than having the applicant be the person that has to provide the indemnifications and guarantees. It's the owner that's going to own the real estate, and the owner is it's an entity with several investors as opposed to the applicant. So we're actually quite confused because we've never seen a situation where they've asked the applicant to provide these guarantees, not the owner of the property. So that's the first
Can I address
question.
that real quick?
Sure.
If you look at condition approval 1F, it provides conditions of approval shall apply to any successor in interest in the property. And the applicant shall ensure that the successor in interest is aware and informed of those conditions. So the intent is that the conditions transfer with the land.
Well, but what about today? Well, currently the ownership entity is different than the applicant. So that's why we're okay with it transferring, and we make a transfer aware of those conditions. But currently the ownership is different than the applicant.
So currently the ownership is different than the applicant. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've seen many situations where the applicant is one entity. The applicant is AG/CCRP public market ownership. And it's-
usually I see the applicant as the person who owns the property.
well,
And
that's
then thereafter,
yeah.
they do their transfers to their LLCs, et cetera. So
We've already done that.
you've already done that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the first item we want to address. The second one is with regard to whether or not there is a credit available for the money we expend on the park versus the park mitigation fees that we would pay for the rest of the development at the public market. And it just seems that we'll be investing quite a bit of money into this park to not get some benefit. It almost seems like double counting to then pay park fees on top of the money we're spending on the park. Just wanted to share that with you. The next item is 1A, which is the monument sign. The monument sign currently exists. It's not a large monument sign. It's on the northeast corner of the 63rd and Christie. And we feel this sign is important because there are two entrances into the public market. One is you enter via Shellmount, and the other one you enter via Christie. And the concern is if we have no identification on Christie, then the majority of the traffic entering into the public market and for the grocery store is going to come down Shellmount. And so we think it's important to at least identify these two as entrances to spread the traffic flow out. And again, it's an existing monument sign right now. The next item I wanted to talk about is 4A, 1A, which has to do with the requirement for installation of curb, gutters, sidewalk on Christie Street on the western edge of the park. We had asked that, we were fine with that condition, but we had asked to not be required to relocate the utilities that run under the sidewalk and that are and somehow a daylight on the sidewalk. There's quite a bit of joint trench there and fiber and such, and we'd like to not be required to relocate those items. And I don't think you need to. I think we can do the work that's requested in terms of the sidewalk and the curbs without doing that. The next item is 4A1B, and this was a request to provide a bulb out and ADA accessibility for the sidewalk that we're going to construct on the southeast portion of Christie and 63rd, as well as the northeast portion. As it relates to the southeast portion, we're fine with providing ADA access. We think that's appropriate. We would do that. The one concern we have is the requirement to provide a bulb out there. That 63rd is going to be an access point for vehicles, trucks to serve the market, and it makes their maneuvering that much more difficult to have a bulb out. We're fine with the ADA, but the bulb out's an issue. The other item is that there's a requirement in the conditions currently for us to redo the corner, the northeast corner, which is where the new Essex building is. And it seems to us that that is something that Essex should handle. That's their project, not ours. So we're kind of at a loss as to why we're required to pay to redo that corner. And then the last item is 20.5A6, which has to do with the recycled, reclaimed water. We're very happy to plumb the park to provide for that. We understand that East Bay Mud is going to be running a line down Christie in 2015. We're happy to do that. We just want to clarify that we wouldn't be required to pay to run the line down from 41st or Powell or wherever it was. We would tap into it as it comes down Christie opposite the park, but we don't want to be required to extend the line if East Bay Mud chooses not to extend the line at the time the park is put into position. And then there's a few more technical items that I'd like to ask another member of our team, Chelsea, to come up and address.
Good evening, Commissioners, and again, thank you to the staff for considering our comments, responding so quickly, and also providing rationale for rejecting some of the requests, and we've narrowed it down to just a few remaining comments. One is on the general indemnification. Again, these are very technical. This is condition 2A, and it requests, or it provides that the applicant shall indemnify the city for the design, construction, and or maintenance of the public improvements, and given that the city will ultimately maintain the park and its improvements, we'd like to strike the indemnification for maintenance going going forward. Another option is to have that indemnification until the city accepts the improvements. And a third is to add it to the list of conditions that may be modified in the exchange and improvement agreement. The next comment is, again, very nuanced and just relates to the characterization of the hazardous materials condition. We've gone back and forth with staff on describing the documents that DTSE, the state regulatory agency, has required. And again, this is very nuanced, but rather than calling those documents remedial documents, we'd like to call them environmental documents, mainly because this is a site that received a no further action letter from the state regulatory agency decades ago, and this is really a case of implementing those previous documents rather than doing a remediation from fresh. So again, it's just a slightly nuanced, different characterization of those documents. And then the third comment is on condition 4D. This is related to damage to public facilities. And we heard earlier that staff objects to limiting the responsibility for damage to public facilities only within the construction zone because there may be damage outside of the construction zone. And the further clarification we would ask on that is that there's a clause added to say that the applicant or owner is responsible where we have caused the damage. So again, just a causation clarification there. So I'll spare you the rest of our technical comments, but we've really made a lot of progress and appreciate your consideration.
Any questions for the applicant? Great, thank you. All right, with that, we'll open the public hearing on this item. So if anyone would like to speak on this item, please come forward.
My name is John Jackson. I'm a resident Pacific Park Plaza. I wasn't planning to attend this evening, but one of the city council persons that I was communicating with asked me to come to speak. I've sent a memo to each member of the Planning Commission. Have you seen that memo?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'm not going to go over that except to say that what I'm asking, and I want to clarify, parcel C that the staff was describing in its presentation is the property at 6150 Christie Avenue. Is that correct?
Should we respond to this?
Sure, go ahead.
No. Parcel C is to the east. It's where there's a proposed grocery store.
I thought that in her presentation she was stating that City Council had directed incorporation of the vacant lot, and that was, maybe I'm mistaken, was that not on one of the pieces of presentation that you made, incorporation of 6150?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
But I didn't
Right.
call it
That's not
C.
parcel
Okay,
C.
well, it was, I misspoke in terms of the parcel, but it was included in that
Yes.
diagram. All right.
Yes.
So I'm gratified to see that, and it helps me to make my little presentation because I was thinking I would be challenged on appropriateness of scope, but that is one piece of my presentation that I don't have to justify. The linkage of these city-owned properties has been made anyway in these councils by you guys and by City Council, and it's common sense. But your incorporation of it lends credence to that view that it's within the scope of discussing at least 6150. You don't need to respond to that. And so, at any rate, I'm asking that you guys, that the Planning Commission, discuss further those vacant, the city-owned properties, especially 6150, and tonight, and add wording to make a condition of approval that that property be excluded from development in the request for proposal that the planning staff is putting together, and that it be reserved for the park as has been described in that by the staff. And absent that, if you can't make it a condition of approval, at least express a sense of the commission for the city council that that's your belief. One last thing before I quit, because my feeling is that if we don't act now with that property, we're going to lose it for development. I think the RFP was developed prematurely at the last study session. I don't have time to show you, but we don't have enough park space.
Good evening, Commissioner Moss and commissioners. I'm kind of glad I had to step down from this one. You guys have your hands full with these new conditions of approval, so good luck with that. What I'd like to do is encourage you that we approve this project as soon as we possibly can. The neighborhood really desires this improved park. On the lighting issue, right now that park at night is dark. We have some globe lights that have some very low wattage lighting in there, so anything that illuminates that path through the park is going to be an improvement for us. The issue of dogs, the desire for the dog park is for people who have dogs, especially little dogs that they want to let off leash and they know are not going to run in the street. But regardless to how the city programs that park and makes it illegal or not, every building on my side of the street, PPP, Avenue 64, and the Commons all have dogs. Some of them are rather big dogs. They're going to use that park. I can tell you that right now. So we might as well make that known and kind of plan for that. But the dog park primarily is for people who want to make sure that their dogs are safe while they're running off leash and stuff. So I think this, the team here has really listened to us as a community. They've really given us a lot of what we want. The playthings I kind of like because they're just 4 of them. They're a variety of them. They're not their typical toys. And I can guarantee you sometimes when I go over to eat at Wasm on a Wednesday, I'm going to be bouncing on those bouncy things. So it's going to be a good park and definitely going to be improvement. So let's please move this along as soon as we can. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Dennis Kane, and I live on Christie, 6400 Christie, 6 years. And this is a great plan, and I want to really commend you guys. You've done a lot of work. It's obvious, and you've been very thinking ahead, and this is a great plan. So I'd like to see this happen as soon as possible. I'm here to kind of support you with removing of the trees. You know, nobody likes to cut a tree down. I mean, what a horrible thought. Nevertheless, there are trees there that were planted 25 years ago. And that plan, as good as it was when it was conceived, is, well, obsolete by today's standard. Not the trees are bad, just the plan in general at that time has been, well, it's obsolete. So what these people have proposed, putting in new trees, eliminating, unfortunately, some of the existing trees, is really wonderful. Over 1 acre of land. We're looking forward to this park tremendously. Can hardly wait for it to open. Anyway, thank you very much for putting all this together, and I just really want to thank you very much. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and we will commence our discussion. Do you want to start?
Sure. I like the fact that the one tree was removed at the junction of the plaza, I guess was what we're all calling it, the area between the grocery store and the and the public market and the park. But I almost feel like that planter area now is kind of left behind from the tree being there, and that the landscaping in that area should be modified to have, I mean, I think, I don't know where we're at with that plaza and if it's going to be a pedestrian plaza or if it's, you know, and only accessible to emergency vehicles, but I think we're, or at least some of us are viewing it as a pedestrian plaza, and so having that direct connection into the park and not blocking it with this landscape area right there would, I think, be beneficial. As far as the lighting goes, I do think that a lot of the sort of meandering paths, it'd be nice to have some low-level lighting on those at night. I go past like Doyle Hollis Park and I think it feels restrictive to go into the park at night, and most people really just avoid the park at night and only kind of walk around the perimeter of it, and I'm hoping that this park does not follow suit and is actually utilized more in the evening and is safer as a result of that. I think a lot of times when large dogs, if you've got a sort of isolated dog park area, I like that. I think in some parks where large dogs are off leash and running around a lot, in all areas of the park, it limits what else can be done in those areas. And so I know I've been in parks where playing with, neighbors' kids or relatives' kids and throwing a ball, and you throw it and kid doesn't catch it, and some dog runs and grabs it and runs off with it, things like that. So it just, I don't know. I mean, just a consideration, but I think, the possibility of dogs being off leash within the contained area on the north edge of the park and then just only allowed on leash for the rest of the park might be an approach to consider. And then I'm guessing it's just not drawn in here, but in the play area, there's a landscaped sort of wiggly landscape area between the climbing structure and the whale with no path between the two. So I'm guessing we'd want a path connecting those two play areas. And as far as a monument sign, I'm not a real fan of a monument sign in the park. I mean, if there was, I don't know. I mean, if it was a real work of art somehow, and I'd have to be convinced, but just an advertising sign in the park seems like the wrong location for a sign of that nature. I think those are all my comments.
I definitely agree with Commissioner Gunkel's comments about the entry to the park where the tree was, feeling like it's a blocked place rather than an entry, and I think something should be done to straighten it out and include that so that you feel drawn in directly, because if you come down the middle, you should be able to come in and not have to go around. I also think there should be low-level lighting around the perimeter paths, the meandering paths, the one by the dog park. I live across the street, I live next to the Greenway across the street from Doyle Hollis, and I think the acorn lights are fine. They're bright, but they're not overly bright, and I think that they would look nice and be a nice addition to that part of the park. I would also concur with the idea that the sign doesn't need to be in the park, in the public property. I don't know whether we need to go, I don't know about addressing the conditions of approval one by one here. I think there definitely needs to be a revised photometric with addition of some of the lights in the darker areas of the park. I think that there does need to be plumbing for reclaimed water, and I don't think that there's a question that the East Bay Mud is going to bring the water line out there, so that should be in there. That's all I have at the moment.
Chair Moss, if I could just chime in on the reclaimed water issue. The Public Works Director has informed us that East Bay Mud is planning to put in a recycled water main on Christie Avenue within the next year or so. So it will be available.
So I wanted to just thank the applicant for all of the designs, the revised designs, and really taking into account the suggestions that we've made. And I think that the design is really has really come a long way. I think it's really where it should be. As far as the play equipment, I know that in the beginning I was more of a proponent of having some more traditional play structures like swings and slides, just kind of based upon the feedback that my kids give me when I take them to the park. But I've really, since then, I've been won over, especially by Ann's description of, the process that led them to choosing this type of equipment. And I really feel convinced that this is the right type of equipment that will really engage children's imagination, and just that will be more interactive with each other, and really that each play structure has a diversity of ages that can actually enjoy it, whereas a lot of times with swings, toddlers get knocked over or kicked over, and it can be kind of a dangerous place when you have all ages at a park where you have traditional play equipment. So I'm definitely all for what's there. Can't wait to try it out. As far as improvements, I agree with the other commissioners' comments about the lighting and also wanting to see a revised photometric study. I think that we definitely need more lighting along the southern edge of the park. And then also at the entrance on the northwest, I think there needs to be another dog waste dispenser there, because that looks to me like it's one of the main entrances to the park where people will be bringing their dogs, and they'll want to grab that as soon as they enter the park. And so again, that's on the northwest corner. As far as the conditions of approval, I wanted to understand a bit more from the staff's perspective of this requirement for indemnification for the maintenance. So we can go through everyone else's comments, but I would like to kind of get a more of an answer to that question as to what's the logic behind having them indemnify the maintenance part of it. So those are all the comments I have.
Well, I think the work's been done on this is terrific, and that they have really answered most of our questions. As far as the lighting fixtures go, I've always been a strong believer in lighting surfaces, not eyeballs, and that a downward-facing light fixture would be better than the acorn light fixture. I do have a question with the bulb outs and the ability of delivery trucks to turn off Christie onto 63rd. And I'm curious about Market Drive, which appears to be a two-way street, but it's only a one-way street behind the existing public market building. So the traffic heading south would have to turn up that possible pedestrian-only street and cross over the traffic going in the other direction. I don't know if that's been addressed yet, but I think it's something that should be looked into.
Yeah, I had a question about that as well, how the traffic circulation was going to work on Market Drive. I will definitely echo the previous commissioner's comments. The entrance up at the top of the park does feel like an afterthought now. I'm also curious about what's going on in the southwest corner of the park where it meets the adjacent land that is to be developed further. I noticed that the sidewalk at that point becomes narrow again to, I guess, meet up with the existing sidewalk, but that doesn't provision. So what's going on with that corner, I guess, is the question, and I'm not sure if this was just to meet up with the existing sidewalk, or how. Do you see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's we're just trying to match the existing sidewalk off property. I think it's not as exaggerated as it looks in this graphic, but it is a narrower sidewalk up Christie, yeah.
So would this be something that once the city's property to the south was developed would get changed? Because the sidewalk would be, is that
Well,
Should that be
I
changed
mean, we
now?
don't know. We haven't designed anything there yet, but I would certainly imagine, I mean, if we're going to conform to the citywide design guidelines for sidewalks, it certainly would need to be wider than that. It seemed to me it would be appropriate to just make it as wide as the rest of the sidewalk along the park frontage at this point, so we don't have to widen it later as
what
part
I
of the
thought.
park expansion.
Yep. So I would recommend that that be taken care of. I definitely, I think that there needs to be more lighting. I am a fan of the Acorn lights and would like to see more lighting along that south edge as well. And also in the play structure and the dog park, I'm not sure that there's enough light there. And certainly in the wintertime when there is not enough light and yet people still want to use the park. So I'm happy that the light study is happening. I do appreciate all the work that you've done to make this park what we really want in the city. So I'm happy to see that. And then getting to the conditions of approval. Are we going to go through those individually, or what? How?
I have no interest in sussing out the conditions of approval. I will say
have none
that.
either, and I'm not certain what you're asking, what you staff would ask of us on that.
Well, we would ask you to just say yes.
For your condition.
To your condition.
Right.
I'm prepared to move the
I think,
approval with the staff recommended
I would suggest
conditions.
that if you have comments on the conditions that differ from what staff is recommending, then you should focus on that. If you don't disagree with what staff is recommending, then you don't need to comment.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion.
Although I do not want to see a monument sign, I think we do need wayfinding signs to get to, so we understand that the Amtrak, station is over there and that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if that's been taken into account. I know that was something that we had talked about in October, where this park was going to be. We need a way for folks to really understand what's beyond the park and off to the east. And then, there was, Maru, you had mentioned a condition of approval about the landscaping, and it was right, it was in your presentation, and I just wanted to, it was about soil conditions. I just wanted to say that I think if the soil conditions prove unsatisfactory for Quercus agrifolia, I would encourage that the substitution be made for something that could take the higher water levels, and that staff could take care of that as well. So you had said that the planting plan would need to be followed, and yet we don't really know what the soil conditions are. So I would say keeping that open would be wise to make sure that our park is successful.
Right. So the final plant palette would be chosen by the planning director on the advice of the city arborist, who would have the soil information.
Okay.
So that's what it says.
Yeah. Then I agree. Yeah. And then the last question is: there's these two lights that we've been talking about, the Acorn and the full bore. Full height. Is there
Lumec.
Is there are there any other options that are a step down from either of those that
Those are the two standard city
recommended?
lights. I mean, the Lumec is the name of a company, so it's not a specific light. But if you look around the city, you'll see a variety of different models of those Lumec lights. I think there's some miniature version of the Greenway light too that I've seen somewhere, but generally it's either the Lumec green standard city, that kind, some style, or the Greenway. Those are the only two lights that are in the city street furniture catalog.
Okay, maybe that needs to get looked at as in terms of one more step down.
Well, we didn't want to get too crazy with lots of different choices of lighting. We wanted to bring some consistency to the city.
That was more of a question than a. Okay, so that's my comments.
Well, I will just say thank you to the applicant and great job. I think you've done a great job over all these meetings, taking into consideration our comments, and I think this final design really shows that, and I'm really excited about this park. What can I say specifically? One thing is I just want to make sure that there are adequate, in addition to the dog waste dispenser bags in the dog park area, that there are adequate also trash, refuse disposal either inside the fenced area or just outside of the fenced area. One of the problems right now at Temescal Creek Park is that you get your dog dispenser bag in the dog park and you pick up your dog waste, and then there's no trash can anywhere near you, and you've got to take it with you.
Pack it in and pack it out.
Yeah, you got to take it with you all till you're all the way out of the park where the trash can is at the entrance. So I just want to make sure that doesn't happen. I am willing to overlook my concerns about the play structure, or kind of play equipment given other equipment. But like I said, I'm super excited about that whale and to see how that works. And I just wanted to address the comments from one of our speakers. I just wanted to make sure that you noticed that the applicant has included pedestrian walkway connections to the adjacent parcel, and we at the meeting where we considered the RFP for those adjacent parcels, we expressed our support of using some of that property adjacent to this property as a public park as well, and that's why it was included in the RFP, because if it's going to be developed as a future park, the idea is that a future developer would develop it as such. And what else? I'm very much in favor of the acorn lights in the park. I think that those Lumec lights or whatever, they look like street lights. They look very much appropriate for streets, but not appropriate for a park. And the acorn lights look like park lighting. And then I have one question for the applicant, which is Market Drive. There were a couple of concerns raised about Market Drive. Can you explain how the circulation of that two-way to one-way portion will work?
Yeah, we still maintain that there's a need much of the time for one-way traffic, convenience pickup, drop-off, for customers and users of the office building. So on 62nd Street Plaza, think of it like a shared street or like a Woonerf. There's places to pull in, get a taxi if you walk out of the grocery store, or pick somebody up from the office building. The realignment of Shell Mountain just frankly doesn't allow for those kind of convenience activities for the office tower anymore, and it is a 100,000-foot office tower. So the idea would be when an activity would close the plaza, traffic would be bollarded here in the southern direction, so that northbound traffic from behind the market could continue out, but that at non-busy times you could come in on Market Drive, pick someone up at the grocery store, and come out on Shell Mountain on the southbound. So that was the thinking. So the idea was that anticipating that, we would push pedestrians right or left of the plaza, not right down the kind of automotive band.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense to make 63rd one way the other direction, and then Market Drive one way the entire length?
This was kind of a result of a series of conversations with staff and the Public Works Director on what's the most favorable turning movements on to Shell Mound, and really an inability to do a northbound left-hand turn lane onto that street off of Shell Mound because of the congestion it would it would cause. And so originally that was a two-way street, and we settled on a one-way eastbound as a way to provide convenience for those users.
Are you suggesting...
Item 2 was that the fire department wanted access down that road as well.
Chair Moss, are you suggesting that Market Drive should be one-way southbound?
One-way, no, one-way northbound for the entire length. Right now, it's one-way northbound until you get to...
I see. So you just
63rd.
continue north. That would mean that anybody who wanted to access that area, that plaza that he was just referring to, would have to come up behind the public market building from 59th Street, off Christie. That would be the only way to get there. So I think that's why they did it this way.
Or it's only emergency vehicle access. Plaza.
I mean, I think we definitely have an opportunity for a lot of conversation next month on Parcel C, and we could revisit it then. I think what we can get into then is that the ease of use of the grocery store, which I know was on a lot of your minds last month, is in part contingent on making it easy to kind of get in and out of there and pick up and get a cab and things. And so I suppose if we could table that discussion until then, that'd be helpful.
It's really not part of the FDP approval of the park. I would suggest you table that discussion for future FDPs, but I would also point out that I don't believe it would impact any of the physical design of these streets. It's really an operational question. Is it going to be two-way? Is it going to be one-way? If it's going to be one-way, which way is it going to be? That can always be changed in the future. If you find that the street isn't functioning correctly, you can change it to one-way or two-way.
Yeah, well, I mean, ostensibly the street would get narrower if it was one-way.
Well, as Mr. Steffen said, the fire department needs 20 feet.
20 feet, yeah.
I know.
You can fight with them if you want. We're never successful.
But it's still,
we'd love for you to fight that.
It would still, I mean, it would impact the treatment of that planter at where the plaza or 62nd or whatever comes into the park. Because if we're thinking of the plaza as more of a pedestrian plaza, having this planter sort of block you as you're entering the park, you know, maybe if you want to maintain the flexibility for future conversation, then maybe at least at this point, that planter not exist there, and the treatment of that entrance into the park be, you know, allow for that that flexibility in the future.
That's fine with us.
I would agree with that. I would also like to hear from our attorney. It seems like they narrowed down some of these discussions on the conditions of approval to a few, some sort of minor changes that made sense, and I'd like to hear what your comments are about some of the wordsmithing on the conditions of approval. Since all of this has happened within the last 3 hours, it's kind of, it kind of puts us at a disadvantage here.
And maybe we could get to Commissioner Tan's question about the maintenance.
Exactly.
Well, there is a general, one of your standard conditions that speaks to the applicant being responsible to indemnify the city for, actions that arise out of the design, construction, or maintenance of public improvements. So sometimes you have an obligation that's imposed on a project for the applicant to not only design and construct, but also to maintain a public improvement. And so to the extent there's an ongoing obligation of that applicant to maintain a public improvement, and if they don't, and there's some resulting lawsuit claim or whatever as a result of their lack of maintenance, well, then they haven't fulfilled their obligation, and so this condition requires them to indemnify the city for that. With respect to the park, I think we've already been, again, this is a standard condition, so here we're not talking about them maintaining any public improvement. They're going to construct it, and then it's going to be, once it's constructed, it gets dedicated to the city, and the city is going to be the one maintaining it. So, you know, if we want to revise, I mean, we could spend a lot of hours just really, you know, honing in on every little standard condition of approval to satisfy them. But I mean, we are going to be negotiating, and they're very well aware of this, as maybe 1 or 2 agreements dealing with the dedication and cleanup and construction of the property, and these sorts of issues can easily get resolved there. And again, as I said, they are not going to be maintaining it, so this condition that says they have to indemnify the city for something they're not obligated to do, then we would be hard pressed to say, hey, 10 years later, we're getting sued because of your failure to maintain something. I mean, that would be ridiculous on our part. So I just feel in many instances some of these issues are just, well, I just think are unnecessary. I know Mr. Stefan was, you know, suggesting that we change the whole reference from applicant to owner, because the applicant here is not the owner. Well, that's an issue between you and the owner, and you can easily contractually deal with that issue. And then likewise, again, as I say, these sorts of obligations that flow with this piece of property are going to be transferred to the city, and that, you know, whatever issues you have about ongoing responsibility to maintain this park in accordance with these conditions of approval, if you don't think, if you think something is left open here, that after it's been designed, constructed, and dedicated to the city, that you feel somehow city center or the owner is somehow exposed, I'm sure your team of lawyers will be certain to make sure that we sort of, you know, deal with that issue, because certainly it's not the intent for the city to come after a city center or the applicant, or the owners rather, 10 years after the fact for some condition here that relates to the property that the city then owns. So I know Chelsea had asked for some revision to the reference to remedial plan to, I'm assuming, environmental plan. Was that? I'm fine with that. That's, you know, it was just a defined term to be used. So that was in condition 3A8. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if there are any other issues that you had specifically of me.
Well, I would move.
I'm sorry. There's just one other issue that we had struck the condition of approval regarding the stormwater management operations and maintenance plan, and I'm not suggesting that we reinstate it, but I do want to raise the issue, and really more for the applicant and for the staff and for the commission, when you're addressing parcel C, the market, the grocery store. Thank you. There are, if you'll look at the plans for this, it's what is it? C300 is the sheet, and it sets forth. It shows that there are certain stormwater treatment measures in terms of treating stormwater that comes off of the street, the Marketplace Drive, that are utilizing the park for purposes of that. And our position will be in relation to the FDP for the Marketplace Drive and the grocery store, is that certainly we can provide for these stormwater treatment measures on the city's, what would then be the city's property, but you're going to be responsible to maintain it, and so we would deal with that issue in the FDP for the Marketplace Drive and the grocery store. Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Donaldson, were you about to make a motion?
I was about to move approval of this project with a little bit of reworking of that eastern entry so that it's more direct and contiguous without that planter. And I realize that impacts your stormwater thing a little bit too, but I think it's a really important piece. And that the lighting photometrics be relooked at and lighting on the perimeter paths beefed up a little, well, put in, not perimeter, but the winding paths and the dog park path. And that the greenway lights be used in the central path, and the conditions of approval as suggested by staff with that one revision that Mr. Biddle thought was okay included.
Could I just clarify? The greenway lighting in the park is already included in the staff conditions of approval. However, we were only calling, the only additional lights we were calling for, well, other than Lumec lights on Christie Avenue, which would be spaced probably about at half the distance of the current Cobra headlights. But otherwise, the only additional lights were 4 greenway lights on the path on the south side. Are you suggesting additional greenway lights on the meandering path that's parallel to Christie Avenue as well?
I thought that your comment was that when the photometric study was done, if you found dark spots that needed to be addressed, that would happen.
That's, well, right.
Yeah.
But if you want to explicitly say there should be greenway lights along that path parallel to Christie, we didn't say that. We only said if, the photometric study shows dark areas, there should be more lighting.
I'll go with that.
All right. So that's already in the conditions.
Do we want to also...
I would actually like to have additional light. I mean, right now we're not showing any lighting along the dog park, and then only a few lights, or potentially for the current conditions of approval, only a few lights might be added on the south side. I'd like to see low-level lighting, like, maybe the spacing's a lot more infrequent, but along all the paths in the park.
Okay.
And I can't remember who, but someone had a comment about the play surface being contiguous.
Oh yeah.
Between, and I think that's a good.
At least a path between the two.
Yeah, I think that grass is going to get too much wear if we leave it like that.
There'll be a path one way or another.
Yeah, right, right.
Where was this?
Between the whale and the climbing structure. Right now, there's a ribbon of grass.
Oh.
If I could make a friendly amendment to also include that the additional amenities such as trash cans and dog waste bags be added as directed by staff, and that the south west corner, the sidewalk be continuous
to the property line.
To the property line with, as per the new regulations.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. All right.
Can we just ask a clarification question? Commissioner Gunkel, when you say low-level lighting, do you mean...
I don't mean low level, like physically low level. I just
low
mean
level
less,
of illumination.
Yes, exactly.
Got it.
Less
Okay.
frequent.
So that could be proved with the study. Yeah, okay, great.
So you mean like lighting of the same brightness, but just spaced farther apart?
Yes.
Okay.
So with those two friendly amendments, I'll second the motion.
Okay, yeah, can we recap?
Sure.
So what we have is approval with the conditions as modified by staff, changing remedial plan to environmental plan in condition 3A8, reworking the plaza on the east side of the park to remove the planter and have a more direct connection to the 62nd Street pedestrian plaza. I don't want to say low level, but lighting at less frequent intervals with the greenway lights along all the interior park paths. A path between the whale and the climbing structure, trash cans and dog waste bags at strategic locations around the park, and that the sidewalk at the southwest corner should match the width of the rest of the sidewalk along the Christie Avenue frontage of the park.
Yeah. Could we say a path or play surface between the, I'll give them the option of doing what they want.
Okay? Did we get it?
Yep.
Are you ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Find my cheat sheet here. There we go. All right, Commissioner Cardoza?
Aye.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Aye.
Commissioner Gunkel?
Aye.
Commissioner Keller? Oh, I'm sorry.
Recused.
Commissioner Keller is recused. Commissioner Coomerly?
Aye.
Vice Chair Tan?
Aye.
Chair Moss?
Aye.
6 ayes. The application is approved. This decision may be appealed to the City Council within 15 days.
Thank you. I think it's going to be a lovely park.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Take a little break.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, do we want to, so for the next item, I have to